Hello and welcome to Dungeoneered, a podcast dedicated to discussing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
Let's do this. So Josh, for Lukewarm Open this week, I wanted to talk about something that is crucial to every campaign and arguably one of the reasons why we play D&D. And I want to talk about like end game crisis, like end game bad guys, end game crisis, because I think it's something that is, like I said earlier, really, really important. But it's kind of like when I'm DMing or I'm thinking about like where I want my campaign to go, I think of like the same three like campaign endings. You know what I'm saying? Do you ever have this problem?
No, 100%. I'm about to work on my fourth campaign, and I had this problem a lot. I was like, okay, how do I make this different? Like, how do I make the ending not just they've already fought gods one time, they've stopped a demon invasion.
Right. It's like you have demon invasion, which is what you said, right? That one is a very common thing. We have like bad god is going to take over the world type thing, is going to destroy everything.
Mm-hmm.
We have I mean, this is a very common like Critical Role one, but like a dragon attack that like is destroying the world. But like outside of that, I mean, I guess like a cult summoning like a evil deity or evil thing, which is kind of tied into number one or number two, depending on what you want to do. So I don't know. Like I get stuck how I want to end campaigns with like really bad big evil guys because it's always like the same thing.
Yeah, making it interesting and not just the same thing over and over again.
Have you, I mean, obviously, this is like partially spoilers for your campaign, but have you come up with anything that you're thinking about trying that might be different?
Well, so for my fourth campaign, it's not 100% unique, but it's okay. So before we have gone to war against gods. This time there's a possibility that they choose to go to war against gods, but they could also go to war against people. So it's what the setting is, which this is a huge spoiler for my next setting. So I would say anybody from my game, do not listen to this.
Yeah. Okay.
The world originally was not made for the races that currently live there. The races that currently live there lived on a planet that was dying. So what the gods of that world did was they found another place where they could live and killed the people that lived there currently.
Got it.
And brought their races from that world over here. I am calling the people who lived on that world Geldurans, but what they really are is they're Genasi. Okay. And all the gods on that realm were kind of more primordial in nature, more elemental. Now, what they did when they took over, they kind of laid more dirt over the whole world and created the world on top of the old world. Now, the old world is pretty much the Underdark now.
Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting way of doing the Underdark. I've never really heard of that before.
Yeah. And what the people who lived there previously, the ones that still live, are just stuck in the Underdark.
Interesting.
Now, what they have done...
Are Genasi in the Underdark now?
Yes.
Interesting.
Now, what they have done is they have harbored this hatred for the ones that killed their gods and killed everything they cared about.
As they would,
yes. And what they've done is they've found bodies of their gods. And they also know that they're not powerful enough to take on their enemies.
So are there gods like buried in dirt?
Uh-huh. They're buried physically on the realm. Or some are in the astral sea and whatnot. So they have traveled all over the multiverse, finding all the dead bodies of their gods.
Interesting.
And what they're doing now is they're sewing pieces of their gods onto themselves to give them more power and give them divine energy.
Ah, yes. I love
so they're
good old
horrifying,
Stitch.
stitched on. Like, I've gotten all these beautiful images on Pinterest of just like people with sewn on bits.
Certainly are, trust me.
It's so good. And all of and those are people that have sewn on pieces of gods to themselves to make themselves more powerful, and those are going to be the big bad evil guys of this campaign.
Love it.
They're like people that originally were probably in the right of like, hey, you shouldn't have done this, but
man, it just
they have
brings
taken
back
it
good
too
old
far.
memories, fighting Stitch monsters. Love it.
So what we've done a few one-shots in the world so far, and they have found a laboratory where they were trying to figure out, when we stitch people together, how do we keep them alive? They keep dying. Mm-hmm. So the lab they found was working with mind flayers. And what they would do is they would magically slow down the kind of tadpoles and see if a mind flayer tadpole had to do its job over a longer period of time, how does it keep the host alive? So that's what was being tested in this lab.
Interesting.
So it doesn't mean anything to them currently. It's just mind flayer testing that seems to be a little weird. Eventually, they'll figure out that it was one of the base things to figure out how to get these things to be sewn on correctly. Another lab they're going to find was inspired by your game.
Ah, yes.
Where there is a gem that they will have used to kind of catch the souls of the people that as they die, they trap them in there. Then when the person is fully like sewn up and fully attached, they will return the soul to the body.
Yeah, spoilers. That's pretty much exactly how mine works. I don't think you guys probably figured out. But,
well, I don't know. I don't think you ever said that. I think that was just kind of how we were assuming that it works.
Yeah.
And
that's. It's very similar to that. Which you guys have been searching for those orbs of power for a long time. But yes, one of the orbs of power does that. Very similar, at least.
Yeah. And so that's the second thing they tried is, what if we just like hold the soul and put it in later? Then they can't die from it. And so they're trying that
Stitch monster and D&D.
So they're gonna go through labs where they're kind of figuring out the process of how to sew these things on and make them work, until they meet one of the people that are not just sewn on of monsters, but of sewn on piece of an actual god.
Yeah, which is crazy. Because, what even happens to them if they sew a piece of a god onto themselves? Do they just gain incredible power, or what?
So, depending on what the piece is, they gain a different type of power. There is one dude, one of the first pictures I found that actually was like, what are these? He's a dude who has a chain. On this chain is like 20 hands. And I'm like, what are all these hands on a chain for? They're kind of floating around him. And so I was like, what if they were like hands of like that he could use and maneuver, and what if they once were like a person? And then it kind of slowly became...
He's just a really good basketball player, All he wanted was just to be able to shoot hoops for days, And you have to really turn him into some sort of bad guy.
Gotta shoot hoops for days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna post the a link to the
Pinterest image.
My whole Pinterest board of the sewn on people.
Huge Pinterest board of sewn on people, so we might have some of the same ones.
Of course you would have that.
It's almost as big as the board of like noble knights that I have on. Not quite though.
But yeah, so he just has like all these.
Serrano. Oh, I found Serrano. Oh, cool.
Oh, you're going through yours. You're going through your Pinterest board.
Yeah, you got me in my Pinterest board. Now you got me all up in my Pinterest board.
Now, for everybody listening, we both highly suggest using Pinterest boards. It's so good to visualize and see your...
It's incredible.
See your world in a new way.
Oh, it's so awesome. And you can go through like you have like different boards that you can pin things to of like bad guys, good guys, landscapes, cities, anything you want. And I love it. And it's amazing.
Yeah, they're the
But
amount of things that are out there for like just fantasy images, they're fantastic.
And well, it's funny because the world, the direction that you're kind of going with your campaign is similar to mine, at least the beginning parts of this stage. But hey, yeah, look, you have the same ones as me. The guy with the tentacle on his back. Yeah, and the guy with the thing on. That's exactly
My favorite one. So good. My favorite one is this image of this kind of slightly chunkier, kind of fleshy human that has sewn himself onto like almost, it looks like a rotting or decaying body that is about his same size or slightly smaller, so he doesn't quite fit in it. I just posted it to Discord.
Oh gosh.
And he's like holding 2 scythes and 2 maces, and it's just horrifying and fantastic.
Yeah, it looks like he's wearing like a skin suit. Like he
exactly.
Sliced open it's so nasty. But I don't know. I know you. I mean, everybody by now knows that I'm a really big fan of like body horror. I just think it's just very interesting how humans over, a very long time have been fascinated with this subject, and have written about it and, drawn it and discussed it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it stems from a lot of different reasons, but
like I don't think mine always needs to be body horror for these kind of sewn on bits.
Yeah, no.
Like this one I just posted. She super just has, cool. She has like, cool picture. It's super cool looking. She has these weird looking legs. And so I'm just having those be the legs of some sort of god of theirs.
It looks like she took what am I?
Dryad or something?
They're like woodland people. Dryad. It looks like she took like dryad legs and like sewed them onto her own
sort of like weird. I see them kind of as like corally and kind of sea-y, so it's like maybe it's like some sort of a water dryad of some sort.
If I had to guess, honestly, it looks like an antique of some kind, like a bronze antique or copper antique that is like aged and turned kind of partially green.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a really cool aesthetic, but I don't know, like my campaign obviously is going in this very body horror image. Well, not for much longer. You guys are pretty much going to be done with it here in the next couple sessions, at least, this part of the campaigin. Because
nobody listening will understand this, but then on to the cloth orb.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are going to gather all the orbs of power, but you guys are going to finish with the boss of the orbs of power before it even, before you even collect all of them, I'm assuming, because that's kind of what you're doing right now. So, that's gonna, those are gonna be kind of now like a primary side quest, if that makes any sense. But what I'm trying to go with now for this end of campaign is I'm kind of trying to make it a more like human-centric campaign where I'm going to start to turn it, which I think we've already seen a little bit of hints of it, a little bit more like not like steampunk, but a little bit more like humans wanting to destroy and rule stuff instead of like an invasion of demons or a god is destroying the world, where it's just gonna start turning into like evil figures that we've seen in like history, but like reincarnated in D&D world, because I've never really done that. I've never really, I've always done the there's a demon invasion coming from the portal up in the sky. Oh, there's a god descending down from the world. I mean, the one you guys are currently doing is like, I guess, a weird body horror cult, I guess. But yeah, I'm kind of turning it into a little bit more human centric. And I think, I mean, obviously I don't want to do spoilers because you're in the campaign, but I think I want it to be very humans are in control of everything. Like they've kind of humanoids, I guess would be a better term for D&D. Like the humanoid races are now kind of in control of everything, and they are the ones who dictate what goes on in the world. So I think that's what I'm leaning towards, which, it's been very political. The game has already been very political, and that's kind of where, we're taking it right now with our land stuff. So I think that's kind of what I'm going with, and I think that's part of the reason why I did this little like body stitch thing, because like it's kind of showing that yeah, there are these really powerful entities, but look what these, humanoids can do, So, like, look what these people have been able to do to themselves, and transform their bodies into weapons of destruction. So, yeah, I think that's kind of where I want to go, because I don't know. Again, it's just you get stuck between like 4 tropes where it's like the same thing every campaign. Campaign ending, which obviously there's different flavors, but it's just I get stuck doing it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's hard to get out of, with the kind of classic tropes of.
Yeah,
this is where the story goes.
It's the same with the beginning too of a campaign, right? Where it's like we start in a tavern, or or a caravan gets ambushed, or you start in a prison. Like your airship crashes. Like you have like four ways to start. You know what I'm saying? And those just get repeated over and over and over again. But I mean, and for good reason. I'm not harping on any of them, nor am I harping on the end game stuff, because I love that kind of end game stuff too. But just, sometimes I want to do something a little bit different.
Yeah, like, as I said, this is my 4th campaign. I don't want to have the same opening and ending that I've had in other campaigns so far.
Right.
We've had 4.
I mean, this campaign, I just had you guys meet in the middle of a road at a nobleman's estate that that was empty. That's pretty much, and you guys got to loot it for free. So that was pretty fun. But that's pretty much it.
Well, let us get on to the topic.
Yeah, let's do it. It's been a little bit.
So we've talked about many different types of gods in the Forgotten Realms. And one of my favorite types of gods, because it feels like the most precarious and full of potentially interesting encounters, are the deities that gain followers out of fear.
Heck yeah.
This week we're going to talk about one of these deities from the Forgotten Realms, Umberlee, the goddess of the sea, known for her malice, greed, and vanity.
Can I just say something, though? Mm-hmm. A god of, like, the sea that's based on, like, fear and stuff, honestly, is so terrifying. Like, the sea is so scary.
Uh-huh.
Do you agree?
100%.
The sea is terrifying, man.
As somebody who does fishing and stuff like that, it's terrifying.
Oh man, and I want to.
Like, you're just in this little boat, and you just need to. If you go over, you're dead. Like, it is.
Chris has like an extreme fear of the ocean. A little bit of lakes, but more so of the ocean, obviously, because it's just so vast. But. Mm-hmm. And I relate in a way, for sure. Like, it's scary, I like the land.
Yeah. Like, I love shrimping and doing all these kind of, like, on-the-water activities. But, oh, man. Like, sometimes you go out there and the waves are giant and just...
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's, like, such a huge mystery. It's like, the depths are just, like...
Oh, don't even get me started on the kind of monstrosities that we're finding way down deep or the size of squids down there, dude. They just keep growing.
I know.
Krakens are real.
I know, exactly. Like, I don't know. It's creepy down there.
Yeah. She was said to control the harshness of the sea while playing with it, reveling in her power. She wouldn't hesitate to drown anyone if it pleased her.
Yeah, no way. Oh, gosh.
Volo, the author of Volo's Guide to Monsters, said, "In my experience, sea travel has been very hazardous. It could be I have offended Umberlee in some way. She is such a temperamental, magnificent goddess of the vast ocean."
That's pretty funny.
It's fantastic. There's so much, like, told to you in that such a small quote. You immediately can tell what type of goddess she is. You're like, oh, nope, gotta be on her good side. Like, what was I saying?
I don't know much about, like, how they've written books and stuff, but I love that Volo's Guide to Monster is actually, like, his guide to monsters. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I think this is actually from a book, but like a book that he's a character in. Yeah, but yes, yeah. I like that that D&D writes their books as if they are from the perspective of a character in the world.
Like
we had
monsters and
Tasha's
Cauldron of Everything.
That's what it was. And Tasha is fantastic. Tasha's the child of Baba Yaga.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's cool the direction that it's kind of going recently.
Now, one person I know nothing about is Fizzbands, and I just realized that, and I just realized I need to read up on who Fizzbands is. Because he's got a treasury of dragons.
Yep. Yep.
But back to the topic, though. Umberlee used her avatar form only for torment. She got great joy in showing her physical form toying with the ships before they died.
Jeez.
She rarely took that humanoid form, instead taking the form of the sea itself as roiling waves buffeting ships. Sailors knew that if they could hear malicious laughter or hissing words from the waves, that they were directly up against Umberlee. During the time of troubles, when all the gods were weakened, Umberlee was limited as well, and she would use her waves differently. She'd crash them into boats and use the water to steal any loose gold and jewelry that she could, bringing it into the drink. Now, traditionally, in the research that I do, there is a section for all these like actual people, like the section for any person I do research on about their friends and allies and such and other relationships. She is the first person I've researched that had no friendships and all enemies.
Oh, no.
And I think all of them were made her enemies by herself. Like, nobody went after her. She went after them.
I mean, true, though, like, but what are they going to do about it, you know? She's, like, in the ocean, you know? What can you do, you know?
This god has
terrain.
0 friends. Even Sylvanas, who she is in the domain of, meaning that she's weaker than, she's technically a servant of, she scorns. Her enemies are Saloon, the goddess of the moon and stars, whose stars help sailors escape the sea. She hates Valkyr, the god we talked about 2 episodes ago, the god of sailors and favorable winds, who protects and guides sailors. Are you beginning to sense a theme here, Aaron?
Just a little bit. I mean, yeah just a tiny bit.
She also despised Chante, the goddess of life and bounty.
Of sailors.
No, she can. It's because she hates that she is a goddess of the land.
Ah, okay, well.
And her final enemy was Soon, the goddess of beauty, who she hated out of jealous anger over her beautiful appearance.
Oh, I thought she was going to be mad because she made sailors beautiful. That's what I thought she was going to be mad about.
Now, even though she doesn't have any friends, she's a member of a group of gods led by the Stormlord Talos. But she was not a friend with any of them, except it can be partly said that maybe she was a friend of Auril, the Frost Maiden, but everyone else, including
Talos
the leader,
is just a mere man, just a mortal. He can't be worshipped as a god by the 8.
You bringing up Skyrim in this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I am.
Now, she used Talos and flirted with him to keep him friendly because their domains crossed over and she would occasionally have to fight with him to prevent him from stealing her domain.
You know what? I also just have to say, too, before we continue, that hashtag the Empire did nothing wrong. Anyways, continue.
Empire? In
continue.
Skyrim?
Nope, continue. Nope. It's only for those who will get it. It's only
in
for
Skyrim?
those who
You're talking about
the cause.
Yeah, no, I think we all understand that the Stormcloaks are real bad. Like when the game came out, we were like, yeah, they're both they both have reason, and then now we're like, nah, the Stormcloaks suck.
They're pretty bad.
Everybody understands. Nah, the Stormcloaks are racist assholes. Nah, they suck.
Yeah, they're pretty bad, but the Empire did nothing wrong. So
the biggest problem is that we all know that the Empire is just going to be taken over later on, when in their weakened state by the elves. Yeah. So it's
it's a lose-lose situation. No matter what they do,
lose-lose situation. Now, enough talk about the politics and problems going on in Skyrim, because that makes no bearing on what we're talking about this week. So, she was worshipped, like I said previously, by sailors who didn't want to die by her hand.
Boy, that would really... Could you imagine worshiping a god that you were, like, so afraid of? Like, that was just going to murder you every time you got on a boat? Like, yeah, boy, that'd be rough.
Doesn't sound like a fun life, that's for sure.
No.
As long as you had, like, stuff to do, though, like, if I do X, Y, and Z, I should live.
I mean, I bet you there's some sweet sea shanties about her, though.
Oh, 100%. I was about to go into some of that. Because what happens is they have to do these things to make sure to appease her. So, say she was mostly followed by sailors who didn't want to die by her hand. This continued into her disorganized church, mostly made out of fear and despised by many. Now, some druids saw her as one of the aspects of nature, and in revering nature and worshiping the gods of it, she did get worshipped through them.
Oh, BS. Lame.
Now, many evil sea monsters and creatures worshipped her as well. Most of these actually believed in another god, but because that god held no power here on this plane, they worshipped her instead. While sailing ships were on the water, wanting to appease her, they would drop gems and jewels into the water. They would even, as you said, play songs devoted to her, hoping to gain her favor as well.
Boy, I wonder how mad she would get. If you, like, were like a powerful sorcerer or something and played tricks on the sailors and made them drop gold and stuff for you and you just took it.
I think she would I think that would be just asking for problems.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
She would come after you so rough. Like, you would be dead. You would die.
I know, but boy, is it worth the risk to get a bunch of loot?
No, I don't think it is. Now, sometimes...
Just sing her sea shanty and you're okay.
Sometimes these sailors would also take priests of hers to kind of get them a little bit extra protection. Like, we took the priest of Umberlee. She can't be mad at us now. Now,
yeah, that's how that works.
If it didn't work, it was really, really bad for the priest. Because, hey, we took you here. Why is she still mad at us? If anything happened on the ship, they would immediately turn hostile towards the priest. And some would abandon them, throwing them overboard. There is also reports of priests of Umberlee washing ashore with as many as 30 cutlasses stuck in them.
Oh, God.
Because if they were if the ship was going down and they were all going to die, they were going to make sure that the priest paid.
Listen, I would be like, hey, you guys need to back up. You just misunderstand who my god is, okay? Like, listen, even I don't like her, all right?
She scared people so much that they feared her immensely. The islanders of Kelthon actually did the opposite of burials at sea because they feared burials at sea only strengthened her power.
So they just did normal burials, or they buried them in the ground?
Yeah. And
because they didn't want to send bodies out into the sea?
Yeah. And whoever did burials at sea were said to be rejected by the earth, and upon death becoming a servant of Umberlee as sea zombies.
Oh gosh. Oh no.
You know the story of like the fingernails in Loki, right?
No, I don't think so.
I can't remember who I heard this from, but when they did Viking burials, they would take off the fingernails because supposedly Loki would take the fingernails and so they'd burn the bodies out at sea, because if they didn't, and the bodies would be stripped of their fingernails, and the fingernails would go to make a boat to bring Loki back to the world.
Interesting.
So this is kind of the opposite of that. Like, let's not send it out to the sea because she's getting stronger.
Gosh. I mean, honestly though, like if I lived on an island chain and we had to bury people, I mean, obviously this god is real, like this god exists, right? Like, oh boy, I don't know what I would do. I would hate to live in a world like that though. I'm just saying right now. Oh man.
I'd be so landlocked.
Oh yeah, get me to the tallest mountain, man. Get me out of here.
I'm not dealing with Umberlee. Get me out of here. I'll teleport if I need to go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that would just be terrifying. But the concept is so fun. So cool.
Yeah, that's all I really needed to go into about Umberlee. So what I was thinking is we make a god of fear. Like a god that is feared, like Umberlee, for our world.
I mean, I'm totally down to do that. I have no problem with that. The question is, do we want to focus... do we want to focus on a god of fear, or do we want to, like, expand to another group of people and then include that god in that group of people?
I say include the god.
Okay, so honestly, and you'll have to weigh in here, but what if we went to like the mountains? Because we talked about the gods of those mountains that like would like call people through the mountains, like whispers and things, like echoes through the mountains. Mm-hmm. You could definitely play with some sort of fear there, like a mist. Even you could play with, which a god of like fear that was like based out of mist would be awful. Mm-hmm. Mist is horrifying. So I think that could be really, really fun.
Yeah, I think it would be.
I even thought about like a god of fear that was like born out of somebody's nightmare. Like,
see, I don't know. I don't know if it needs to be a god of fear. I was just thinking a god that is to be feared.
Okay.
I like the god of mists. And I like to think they're mist zombies and mist undead. Like you don't never see them, but when mist goes around you and you feel it this thick kind of mist, they're like about to come out towards you. And so no one's ever seen them like just physically. They've only ever seen them come from the mist.
Yeah, I think like what a common story would be like the travelers who disappear into the mist return
and never return.
They never return. Well, I would like them to return because I think it'd be an interesting like you were talking about, like undead, like they come back but they're undead, right? Like they come, like if you find yourself in the mist, you can see your loved ones who have previously been lost in the mist, but they're an undead version of themselves. Which I think could be really fun, like a kid story that you would, don't go out in the mist because the god of fear will, the god of fear will kill you. That's why you got to stay in your bed for tonight. Now, do you think this would be a god of the mountains? Those people who lived around the mountains, which I can't remember who we had in there, to be honest.
I definitely think that it would be revered, like in the way that you revere something that you're afraid of. Like, hey, like that's a lion that could kill you. Just make sure to give it space. It'll give you space. That kind of thing. Like it's revered in a sort of, it's dangerous. Let it do its own thing and just move away.
So, okay, I think it should be the god of the mountains. And I think what we should do is the mountains. So there's two gods there. I think I want to make a really simple, a group with a really simple, like two simple gods. And I think what we do is there's a god of like the mountain who represents safety and stronghold. And then there's a god of the mists who represents like fear. Like, I don't want to say lost, but like, like the people of the mountains fear leaving the safety and solitude of the mountain, right? So they've like locked themselves in these mountains, which I think could be really fun. And to get to these mountains,
could it just be God of the unknown?
Very much so. Yeah, I mean that could be. Yeah, absolutely, it could be. Do we had a god of the we had like a mirage god who was very similar to that, right?
Yeah, we had the kind of mirage god.
But I think I still like this god to be like a god of maybe not even unknown, but like maybe it's just that I think they just fear I like the idea of it being a god of fear because they fear while they don't know and it is unknown, like they don't know what's outside of the mountains, it becomes a god because the fear manifests this entity that will make them disappear forever, right? That if they leave the mountain strongholds, they will disappear forever. And I think it'd be really fun too because it would leave a really good character, like a PC backstory where like somebody grew up within the walls of the mountain, very similar to like Attack on Titan, right? Like they grew up within the mountain and they always dreamed about leaving, right? If they could just pass the mists, they could pass the god of fear, then they could arrive.
Could it be? I really don't want it to be just the god of fear. I want it to be something specific. So what if it's the god of loss? And so anybody who gets lost ever, they pray to this person that they're okay. So like it isn't like always seen as always the enemy.
I like that idea. My first thought with that was like they would do interesting ceremonies. Like if we kept this like undead idea, they would do ceremonies outside the mountain where they would like set up like
sensors. I don't
want to say like feeding chambers. No, like something to draw the undead in to see if their relatives who tried to go out through the mist are still out there.
Oh shoot, that's really cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So they.
I also like the idea of them kind of, as I said, trying to like what they did with Umberlee, where they try to like appease them a little bit. Yeah. And so what they do is they have these sensors that let out this smoke, and the smoke kind of feeds the mist.
When I think it would be interesting because maybe they would have like I mean, you'd have to leave the mountain for certain things, right? Like you couldn't live completely within the mountain. So maybe we would make this society have a limited resource of some kind that they have to go out of the mountain to get. What they would do is they would
have like to move through the mist to hunt.
Yeah. I don't know what the resource would be, but what I see happening is like they would build I mean in history a lot of the Catholics and Christians would build like these movable crucifixes that you could like rally behind, right? You would look and you would see, the cross behind your army and you could be like, we have God's power with us and we can go fight and win. And so I think it would be really interesting if like they built these like carts with these huge bonfires like you were talking about that release a ton of smoke that they would like all crowd around and like push through the mist as they tried to get to whatever resource they needed. Maybe it was water, maybe it was food, like you were saying, could be really interesting and fun. Like maybe they could grow a certain crop within the mist, like there was a crop that thrived within the like the wet and cold environment of the mist. Go out every few months during harvesting season or whatever to harvest a ton of it. So they would like build these carts that would like just plume tons of smoke to try and appease this, the god of, whatever this god is, to harvest all this stuff. I think it'd be really fun. And then, maybe cart team A disappeared, right? And so after,
I like to think that
harvesting, what was that?
The smoke that it releases is kind of a dark black smoke. So I think that what happens is the caravans that go out, if they get lost, the smoke just stays in one place. Like you're like, hey, they haven't moved in an hour. Are they okay? Like everybody from the town can see the smoke and can kind of track where they're out at. And so if one stays steady for too long, everybody starts fearing.
Yeah, the cart's been lost. Like the people have wandered too far away from the cart or something like that, and they're now, be very, very interesting. And I think they would have like little outposts where they would keep track of like where the carts are, right? They would have like along the mountain, and they could like try and
up high in the mountain,
each different cart. Yeah,
to kind of see over the fog.
Yeah, it could be really, really interesting. And then what I think is like part of like the mourning process, even like when somebody dies within the mountain, like they would go and they would like take like a they would take like a piece of fabric, like maybe somebody's shirt, and they would like release it through the winds to drift into the mist. Like their spirit is now drifting off into the mist. To be, I think that could be a really sad, like a funeral would end with like the person, who's
the burning of something.
That. Yeah. And they would like release, their object to fly out into the mist, and then maybe later, very similar to like a Mexican Day of the Dead, they they try to call people back from the mist to like have them visit for a day, right? Could be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't necessarily mean that, their zombie form would come walking out of the mist or anything, but like, maybe, who knows? Maybe it's a god of like the afterlife, like a god of loss and a god of the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
Could be very interesting. And maybe even like this god would like form little spirits to come and like visit these people. It'd be very interesting. So it's not all bad, but like it is,
Yeah.
And then I think to move on is I think the opposite would be the god of the mountain, right? The god of like the stronghold and safety, where this is their protection. This is the god who comforts them and who protects them from the outside mist. I think that's a really fun society and culture to explore. And maybe they're like the only society, and this could be really fun for our campaign, but maybe they're the only society who hasn't changed. Like they are like, because they haven't left. Like they're still, like they've been shut out from the world for, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years because nobody's left.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, like, if we did something like that, do you think that's a fun idea?
Definitely.
Do you think?
And I would like to
roll with this. What was that?
No, go for it.
I was going to say, if we rolled with this idea, do you think that other societies would have a hard time getting through the mist? Like, is this entity?
Oh, 100%. I think okay. Most groups think it's not traversable. Like, just avoid it. It's not worth it because it's, for them, it's a small part of the world. For this group,
get lost in the mountains,
it's literally everything around them.
Yeah. Like I was saying, they're going to get lost in the mountain and die. And we know the mountains. We know the mountain range. We can see it and explore it. Like we can explore all around it. It's just going in. We get stuck. And people die, and we can never find our way through. We get like eternally lost. Like maybe there's even like to the outside world, maybe like we take kind of like, the trope of like the forest that you walk into and you can never find your way if the forest deems it necessary. Like the elven Lord of the Rings trope where it's like, if you walk into the forest and you're not an elf, you're going to get lost forever and die, What if we did that kind of trope, but with the mist, where like, if you walk into it and the mist deems it that you'll be lost forever, you'll be lost forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it always deems you to be lost forever. Like I just think like the lore and the thing that people would say is that this mist always wants you to be lost forever, so you'll never be able to make it through.
Yeah, I think the mist is seen as an antagonist for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's always a fight against whenever they have to go out.
Well, and I think too that the outside world would definitely see it that way as well, because like they can't get in, they can't get past it, So they
100%.
They also think it, as this kind of antagonistic force. Now, do you think that there's been somebody who has made it through this mist, or are we going to keep it nobody's made it through this mist? And
Lots of people have.
A lot of people have.
I think the big thing is that they just, I think nobody has made it through. Well, so as we said, they do the little like parties to go and grab stuff in the mist. And I think they also go and have people who are just like, I'm not going to stay here anymore. And I think that, occasionally they do make it out. And so I think what happens is those people eventually go and live their life. And I think some have tried to return to like see family or something. But I think nobody makes it through twice. So no one who's gone through has ever made it back to the town.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure what I feel like if I want anybody who have made it out. I mean, it could be really interesting to like have like nobody's made it out like ever. And so like I mean, the village wouldn't know that. Like the mountain strongholds wouldn't know that, right? But like the outside world has never heard from any of these, you know, what's in here at all, which could be fun. But I also like the idea of, you know, people who have made it out and have like told stories of this great mist. Right?
Yeah. I like to think that there's enough people that have made it out that the world knows that there are people that live inside there, and enough people have made it out that it would be a viable option for a PC to come from.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it'd be really fun for a PC to be the first and the only, right? So far, I think that could be a really fun, viable option too.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, I don't, you know, I think I like both, so I think it's really kind of whatever you'd want to do. But I you know, I love the, but I even think like maybe society would think they're kind of like weird. I don't know, like maybe some of them are thought of as like the old hermits who live outside of town who don't really, you know, who ramble on about the stories from the mist. You know, like
mm-hmm.
That could be something. I don't know, or like maybe there's a group of them. Oh, this could be cool. Maybe there's a group of them that are like from a city and they have to be left outside the city because they're considered like mistborn or something, and they're considered a curse upon the group. Because
that would be weird for them to be considered a book series by Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah, it would be for sure. But anyways, like,
but no, I definitely think
like,
so. Okay, I think that's fine, and that's really interesting. I think there has to be a sign that you were mistborn. What is that sign? Do you occasionally exhale mist from your lungs?
You just have frosty breath.
Well, not all the time, but like once, like every few breaths, there's like a release of mist.
Maybe, I mean, what if? I mean, that could be interesting.
Because I like the idea of them being like lepers, and that's fine. Being treated like lepers.
Yeah, like what
that's
if, like,
cool.
You're like mismarked. Like if like the mark has like left a, like the mist has like left a mark on you. Like
that's why I think I like the idea of like, oh, mist comes off your skin, or like you breathe it every so often. Like the mist has to be present on you in some way.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how I like.
Maybe you're just like the mist. Whenever you date anybody, they never return.
I don't know. Because I don't want. I mean, I guess if we did have like mist, like a maybe people thought they would be possessed because they'd have like a mist every once in a while that would like. What if like there was a day that the mist, like every month or so, the mist is stronger or the mist is weaker, and so like throughout, like if you traveled through the mist, you carry that kind of with you, and so maybe like on the days where like the mist is really strong, you like sometimes like will have it like drifting up your arms and down your back or whatever, which could be interesting, I guess. And like the townsfolk would have like days that the mist marked could like enter into town to trade, and they would be like heavily supervised, you know, to like at least stay alive or whatever. Could be interesting because they'd know like a calendar. They'd have like a, you know, this is the mist mark. You know, everybody would stay home except for the select few people that had to trade with them. Could be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's cool. I think that's what we'll go with.
Well, I also thought too, like maybe if you traveled through the mist, like it's left like a pattern that looks like mist on your skin. like maybe it like burns or something, here and there, and it like left a pattern, like a scar along your,
like a burn on your arm or something.
Yeah, like I thought about something like that too, instead of like mist that like drifts off you. And then people could either mistaken it as like a disease, so you're left and cursed. I mean, there's several different things that people could misinterpret that as being. I also thought about it, and this is hyper anime, but like it turns your hair white or gray, like the mist like removes your life force from you, and so now you like part of your life force from you, so you're like everybody's hair who goes through the mist turns bleach white or something like that. That could be really interesting too. And so it kind of looks like mist.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
But that's pretty anime. that's pretty.
Yeah, I think I think my two choices would be the burn or the one day a month they kind of release this steam. Of those options, which would you choose?
A combination of both, where like the vast majority of the the people of the mist, they don't, and they just have like a burn mark, and then like maybe like the priests or like the person who led them through gets this weird mist thing, and maybe you could even make it a subclass of some kind, and if you wanted or use Matt Mercer's Sea Paladin or whatever. But like you could definitely flavor a class around it too if you wanted, or like you could cast cloud spells and stuff like that from it. Be cool, pretty interesting. Ray of Frost, stuff like that.
I don't know if I'd go that far, make it a class or anything, but
I would. I
definitely.
If a PC was like like if one of my players came to me and was like, I want to be one of these like weird mist walkers or whatever, and like, which that could be a really fun thing too. Like somebody's a mist walker and their job is to like walk through the mist, and like maybe some people are born with this weird misty thing within the mountains and they can traverse through the mist. That could be fun too. But anyways, so I don't know. I would definitely consider it, but maybe.
Well, I definitely would consider it if somebody brought it up to me, but I don't think I would go out of my way by myself to come up with it. I think there is. It would. How I see it being is that maybe people are studying it, but I think that the mist is so foreign as of right now that using it for anything wouldn't really be feasible.
No,
because for a group that is so scared of this, it's got to be unknown, or at least very little amount of it needs to be known.
Yeah, I would treat it more like a warlock patron that's like giving somebody this ability to do something for the mist, right? So I'd probably make it a warlock subclass more than anything, because like it allowed this person to pass through the mist, and and maybe like they had some sort of revelation while they were in the mist. Maybe they were lost for days and days and days and days, right? And finally they emerged from the mist after like hallucinations and vivid, horrible nightmares and dreams, and they awoke with these powers outside of the mist with like it could be interesting, like a burn mark along their arm or something that had like something for them to do, or like a item that they've never seen before, or like all sorts of weird things you could do. But again, but I wouldn't like you were saying, I don't think I would do it just as like a a thing. Anyone can have this warlock patron type thing. But I think it'd be fun if a PC was like, hey, unique and interesting patron that I think you could definitely flavor something around it.
Okay, no, we did say we were gonna try to make like more gods than just one.
Well, I kind of like, well, again, I want this stronghold god, but I kind of like the idea of like two, like a really simplistic, like two gods. One is this mist and one is this stronghold, right? The stronghold is what provides and gives and, nourishes and protects, while the mist is unknown, it's fear, it's, loss, all of these different things. And so their whole entire culture revolves around just these two entities that they've, thought up within their mind. I think that, at least for this specific tiny little group, I think could be really interesting. But I think the only other god I would add is I think there would be and I think this is where like my Mistwalker idea would come through, where there's like a god who could guide you through the mist. And maybe there's like a church that's dedicated to, the Mistwalker, right? And they
What if it's not a god?
What?
What if it's not a god? What if it's like a patron for a warlock? So it's a powerful being still, but it's not a god. Like maybe it's like an archfey or an archmist.
Like guides people through the mist.
Yes. And so any patron of it would be a mist patron.
That could be interesting. That could be super interesting. Yeah, maybe it's like the Mistwalker is the only creature that lives that's not like undead, that lives in the mist. And if you find it, it can guide you through the mist. Yeah. But you'd have to pay a toll. Like you'd have to do something for it.
I think you'd have to sign your soul.
Oh, wow, that's a big step.
Well, so I think what you can do is you can either say, I will serve you, like that is what I will do. Or you can say, I sign over my child.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Me. So that is how some people are born as warlocks of this creature. Is maybe their parents said that
drift off of them.
Yes, that's cool.
So like each group that makes it out has one of these people has had to make a deal with the Mistwalker.
I don't think everybody has to, because I think the groups that go in to do the searching for items and such, like the searching for the plant that you said, I don't think they've had to make a deal. I think it's if you get lucky. And when you're lost finding this creature, then you can make a deal to get out. I think the people who are in those parties know enough about the mist and how to traverse it that they don't need it.
So I agree. But I think it's only the people who escape the mist have only done so by this Mistwalker. So like have left society, like the people who go and get the resources and stuff. They traverse the mist. They have even maybe maps that kind of detail where the mist and stuff is, thickest and where you to avoid and things like that in any, specific day or whatever.
Yep.
But I think they always return back. The people who have left permanently, those groups have had to make a deal with the Mistwalker. And I think too, there would be stories of the Mistwalker as also kind of an antagonist here and there too, where it's like, if you don't make a deal with the Mistwalker, what happens to you, right?
I think you wander. You wander until either you die by the zombies' hands or you make it back inside the mist.
You make it, like you make it back to, sanctuary or whatever. Yeah. And I think that's a really fun little trio of, like a society just created these and their whole society is completely based off of,
I like to think that the mist at one point was just basic condensation that kind of happened over in the mountains, and these people feared it so thoroughly that it created this magical properties.
That idea.
Now, I think we're good for episode 82 of Dungeoneered.
I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really fun.
Yes, me too. Thank you all for listening. And if you listen to us on any podcasting apps with ratings and reviews, we'd love if you'd write a review. Let us know what you think about the show. It really helps the show by showing you're engaging in more ways than just one. If you'd like to write to us, you can write to us at dungeoneered@hotmail.com. We'd love to hear from you if you have ideas for Lukewarm Opens, topics, comments on things we made already. We'd love to hear it all. We'd love to hear what you're doing in your game. And as Aaron likes to add occasionally, we like your recipes. Send us recipes.
Heck yeah. Also, I think it'd be really fun if we would get some world notes, like people's world ideas. I think that'd be really fun too, like something you're really proud of.
Yeah. Oh no, that is 100% things we like to receive when people send us like, cool. Hey, I created this and I was super proud of it and I just kind of wanted to share it with somebody. We love to hear
those. Monster, stat block, or anything like that.
Yeah, a monster that you're like, man, this thing did this crazy thing and it made combat so interesting. Like, love all that. But yeah, thank you all for listening. I
got nothing else to add.
Cool. As I always say, always remember to be the sharpest barrel in the bunch.
Oh, gosh, dang it, the suspense is killing me.
See you next time.
Bye.